Hello, beer tubers, and welcome to another beer review with me, Peter, the master of profits. Today, joined by
Me. Just me.
just Michael. I don't know why I do that. Sometimes I like to pet you on the head just to feel, oh yeah,
It's
that is how-
newly shaved.
this is how it feels like.
Yep.
This is the way of life. Hopefully, I don't think I'll end there. I have a
No.
lot of hair.
You've seen
But
the
one
picture
day-
of me when I was your
Well, you
age?
had a lot of hair,
Yeah.
so maybe it's gonna creep down on my back. I mean, you never know. But we're drinking some
Doesn't
awesome beer. We're drinking something I'm really stoked on trying. Something that Stigbergets decided to bring back. This is the 2016 GBG Beer Week. This is a month old to the day, pretty much, this batch. And this was one of the beers that started the craze.
Yeah. For me, it was the beer.
And in the States, it was not this brewery.
No.
But in Europe, before a lot of people knew about hazy beers, OO Brewing and Stigbergets were the ones really doing it and nailing it in Sweden. Olle, who was the brewmaster at Stigbergets back then and had OO as a side hustle with his friend Olof, brewed a lot of these hazy beers. And he basically made the beer that put Stigbergets on the map.
Mm.
And it was GBG Beer Week. It was a hazy IPA with Nelson, Mosaic, and Citra hops, and this is the same as well. And it was just a banger. I got sent so many bottles from Johan in Sweden, and we did quite a few videos. We battled it against Treehouse and all kinds of stuff. It was so much fun, and it was like we just screamed so much about that beer. And it was a fantastic beer. And it was when we couldn't get enough haze, and haze was king, and haze was best, but now we're preferring Pilsners and West Coast IPAs. But still, I love a good
Times
hazy.
change.
Yeah, I love a good hazy once in a while, but I just don't always thirst for them as I did in the past. I remember this being quite bright and fruity and whatnot, with like a very pronounced yeast character. It was not like the modern, like monkish style, mega dank, saturated. It was definitely fruity and hop forward, but it had a lot of yeast character too.
Yeah, it was
and it
very
was
balanced.
silky and pillowy and
Yeah.
not bitter, as far as I remember.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, I loved it to death, and I don't know if it's the last time they're gonna brew it because it says 2013 to 23,
It's 10-year
but it
anniversary.
might just be the 10th anniversary of Stigbergets. So of course they brought this back, and they also brewed the new and improved version. And I never liked that one as much as the original,
No.
actually.
Then they had the Amazing Haze and the model. That
Yeah,
also
yeah.
were quite haze
Yeah.
bombs back then.
And this is not to take anything away from Ollie and the team doing the brewing at Stigbergets now. They're doing a great job, but Ollie needs a shout out on all this because he was the one who came up with this beer and released this beer
Yeah,
at the brewery. One that started it all for a lot of people, and one of the beers that started the haze craze in Europe as well, I think, alongside like brewers like Brewery and some of these guys. It was like there was a few breweries where it was a perfect storm. This new trend was happening in the States. It was blowing up everywhere, and then some European brewers around the time when it was blowing up in the States tried and ended up figuring things out and getting it nailed, and now are really big household names because of that style.
Yeah.
And people are still trying to use hazy beers to break through these days because people still thirst for it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is 6.5%. Let's see how this is. So, it looks like what I remember. It's
Very hazy.
Yes, and it's very like it's hazy, yellowy, orange. Wow, great descriptor there. But
Yeah, and,
It looks like the
The
original.
head is also light yellow.
yeah, I just looked at the thumbnail. I didn't watch the actual video, unfortunately. I should have. But it looks like the original GBG Brewery
Yeah.
in terms of color.
I agree. from
Because
my-
the new and improved, I remember being more orange as well.
perhaps.
And I remember that one being more sweet and juicy than hoppy. But it's been years.
Yeah,
Again.
it's a long time ago.
Whitehead, let's check out the aroma. Yeah, that is the best hoppy beer from Stigbergets in ages.
Oh, it smells.
This smells
really
like what I
good.
remember.
Yeah, me
It
too.
really smells like what I remember. It's like bright, dank Nelson and like really sweet tropical fruit, pineapple passion.
Yeah. I remember this smell too. Not that I haven't had any beers
Oh
that
my
smells
God,
like
this
this,
is
but
so
it smells
nostalgic.
good. Yeah.
It's so nostalgic. I was afraid that this would be a dumbed down version, but it really smells like the original recipe. I mean, crop years are different. And maybe this is a bit more of like an oily, hashy dankness. Like it has a little bit more of that than the original, but that could be crop variations. But it's a combination of overripe juicy esters, but also slightly dank hops and bright tropical fruit. Also that Nelson gooseberry thing in here. Although it's not like crazy forward, but it smells really
I can
nice.
see that. But a lot of sweetness.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of sweetness.
Esters, I think, is the main
perhaps.
thing, like sweet, juicy esters. But let's see if it also holds up on the flavor. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I remember it sweeter.
I remember it also being a bit more popping. I think it pops more on the nose than it does on the flavor.
I don't remember if it was popping back then. I remember it as quite balanced and mellow and really fruity.
Not mellow, but really fruity. Yeah. I think it's very similar to what it was. I just think it also, there is definitely a slightly saturated bite, but I just feel like back in the day, maybe hoppy, like hazies, they were not like as like bright and saturated and whatnot as they are now from the States. But this is towards it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's also why I loved it so much. Although I also love like Julius, but I also would prefer. I always also preferred green over Julius, for example, from Treehouse, because it was a bit more bright, Yeah. But it's really good.
It is good.
For
it's
sure.
still good.
Like I gave this 100 back in the day. This would never be 100 these days, but it's impressive how awesomely drinking this still is. Do you know what? I don't think this is too far off. Also from Flight of Icarus, I did at Seagal, especially the late batches.
No. It's fun that I remember the other one not so bitter. I remember
and that was inspired by that beer.
Yeah.
This beer. The other one. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the old one sweeter and less bitter. But
yeah. It started out as a different beer.
Great.
Flight of Icarus started out as a different beer. It was a different hop combo, but it ended with these because they just work.
I can see the resemblance. I totally can.
Because it has that dry Nelson gooseberry, slightly diesel-y. Dankness, but very bright tropical fruit. I'm definitely also getting lots of stone fruit esters. Back in the day, I talked a lot about Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Bubblegum. I don't know if I'm getting so much of that now. It's mostly like stone fruit.
Perhaps a bit of juicy
But it
fruit.
feels like they've used some kind of London Ale 3 type yeast, or I don't know. I even think Olive back in the day used SO4 to wrangle these, which I'm amazed by because I've always never really liked that yeast from Fermentis. No, but it holds up.
I think it's nice.
I think a lot of people will think it's really good, and I think a lot of people are like, that's going to need more because they're used to even more expressive hop bombs these days.
Yeah, but it is very drinkable.
Yeah, it's like the other day I drank a Fidens Pale Ale on 5.4%, and it had the same mouthfeel as this and the same amount of hop flavor, and that was a Pale Ale. That also shows how things have moved along.
Yeah, of course.
But I think I'll score this equally to that one, like a 92, 93. It's really, really damn good.
I totally agree.
But I'm not
92 or 93.
I'm not like, yes, but I think also back then, the reason why we were that...
At 93
it's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good. It's a great grade.
Yeah.
It's an awesome beer.
It's really good.
But when I mean, it's like 95 plus world class.
Compared to what we've tried...
Yeah. And what I wanted to say is as well is like, back then, this was new. We never tried anything like this. This was amazing.
I still remember going to my neighbor's house with the beer I got from a guy in Aarhus, and you should try this. And the bottle looked like a regular old beer, but inside was this. It was just amazing. Yeah, it was really a deal breaker for me.
But I prefer hazies like this because this is not all juice. It's so bright. Don't give me just pure straight juice. I'm sick of it. This is nice.
Really a good beer.
It really feels like, actually, the more I drink it, the more I get like a polyphenol saturated hop bite on the palate. Like you get with a lot of these American hoppy beers like Monkish and whatnot. And it feels like it's towards something like that. Just maybe not as explosive on its flavors. But it's a great job. It's the best hazy, and also maybe the best IPA I've had from Stigbergets in a long time. And that's funny because it's a rebrew of a beer they did way back in the day. But they've also
would be fun to taste Amazing Haze and Model too.
Yeah, it would. It would be awesome. Like I'd imagine because they've scaled up production so much that a lot of recipes are also changed at Stigbergets. So I wouldn't imagine everything being exactly the same still. But this tastes like what I remember.
And it's really good. Yeah. I think 92, 93 is perfect for this one. I think it's held up pretty good.
Yes. I agree. So If you guys had a chance to try Stigbergets 2016 GBG Beer Week, GBG Beer Week, brewed in 23 for their anniversary, let us know what you thought of it. Really tasty stuff. Really fun to revisit this piece of beer memory and beer history. Really, because it essentially is a piece of beer history.
It is.
Because it was, at least for Scandinavia, the beer that started the craze of haze. And that is something to write in history books because it's taken up so much time of beer.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And craft beer. So, yeah, if you had it, guys, let us know. And here's to Stigbergets.
Cheers.
And an extra here's to Olle for creating this recipe back in the day. And as always, remember to comment, subscribe, check out the Facebook fan page, Twitter, and Instagram. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Ring the bell for future notifications about videos. And we're going to say cheers. And Michael's already drinking. And see you guys.
Should we say a little shout out to Vinspecialisten? That's
beer,
where I bought this beer.
Yeah, Michael picked it up there. Yeah, local bottle shop. Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow, why did I do that?
That was a different ending.